The story opens in the Viridian Expanse, a contested region of space where multiple alien civilizations maintain fragile trade routes and diplomatic outposts. The Calrathi, an insectoid species known for their advanced biotechnology and peaceful merchant culture, operate a civilian transport vessel called the Celestial Dawn. The ship carries approximately 300 passengers and crew, including families, traders, and diplomats from various species. Captain Vexer, a seasoned Calrathi commander with 40 years of experience, leads the vessel through what should be a routine transit. Without warning, the Celestial Dawn is ambushed by a fleet of Ravok warships. The Ravok are a predatory species with a reputation for piracy, slave-taking, and brutality. They have no interest in negotiation or ransom. Their culture views other species as either resources to be exploited or obstacles to be eliminated. The attack is swift and devastating. The Celestial Dawn's shields collapse under the initial barrage, and its communication systems are destroyed before a distress signal can be transmitted. The Ravok warships employ electromagnetic pulse weapons that disable the transport's engines, leaving it dead in space. Descent into chaos. As the Celestial Dawn drifts helplessly, Ravok boarding parties breach the hull. The crew and passengers are rounded up with ruthless efficiency. Captain Vexer attempts to organize a defense, but the Ravok are heavily armed and experienced in ship-to-ship combat. The passengers, mostly civilians with no military training, are herded into cargo holds while the Ravok systematically loot the vessel. Medical Officer Sienna, a compassionate Calrathi physician, tries to tend to the wounded but is forced at gunpoint to abandon her patients. The Ravok commander, a scarred veteran named Krath, makes his intentions clear. The healthy captives will be sold as laborers in the outer colonies. The elderly, the injured, and the very young will be jettisoned into space to conserve resources. Krath delivers this pronouncement with casual indifference, viewing the captives as cargo rather than sentient beings. The atmosphere aboard the ship becomes one of despair. Parents clutch their children, elders pray to their various deities, and the crew realizes that no help is coming. The Viridian Expanse is too remote, too contested, and too dangerous for any nearby powers to risk a rescue operation. Among the passengers is Lyra, a young Calrathi engineer who had been traveling to a new colony to start her career. Lyra refuses to accept their fate. She begins quietly organizing a small group of able-bodied passengers, including Torin, a Varelian security officer whose own ship was destroyed months earlier, and Myra, a human civilian merchant who had been trading in Calrathi space. Myra speaks of humanity with a mixture of awe and trepidation, mentioning rumors she has heard about their military capabilities, though she admits she has never seen a human warship in action. The waiting and the planning. Hours pass. The Ravok complete their looting and begin preparing the Celestial Dawn for transport to a slave market 3 systems away. The captives are given minimal food and water, just enough to keep them alive for the journey. Captain Vexer, despite his earlier defeat, maintains a quiet dignity and attempts to keep morale from collapsing entirely. He moves among the prisoners, offering words of encouragement even as he privately believes their situation is hopeless. Lyra and her small group manage to access a damaged maintenance panel in their holding area. Through it, they can monitor fragments of Ravok communications. They learn that the Ravok are confident, almost complacent. They believe they are too far from any significant military presence to face interference. However, one transmission catches their attention. A Ravok scout ship reports detecting an unusual energy signature approximately 2 light hours away, but dismisses it as background radiation from a nearby nebula. Myra, the human merchant, mentions that humanity has patrol routes in this general region, though she is uncertain whether any ships are close enough to respond. Torin expresses skepticism, noting that even if a human vessel were nearby, why would they risk confronting an entire Ravok fleet for a ship full of aliens? The galactic community has learned to mind its own business when the Ravok are involved. Intervening often leads to escalation, and most species avoid conflict with the Ravok unless their own territories are directly threatened. The Ravok's fatal mistake. The Ravok make a decision that will seal their fate. Rather than immediately jumping to hyperspace with their prize, they choose to spend several more hours stripping the Celestial Dawn of every valuable component, including the ship's emergency beacon and backup power cells. Krath is a meticulous plunderer and refuses to leave anything of worth behind. This greed buys the captives time, though they do not yet know it. Meanwhile, in the void of space, something extraordinary is occurring. A human warship, the destroyer Valiant, has been conducting a long-range patrol of the Viridian Expanse as part of humanity's expanding exploratory and peacekeeping operations. The Valiant is a Lexington-class destroyer, a vessel designed for rapid response and multi-role combat. Its captain, Commander Jacob Hayes, is a career officer with a reputation for aggressive tactics and an unwavering commitment to protecting civilian vessels, regardless of their species or origin. The Valiant's advanced sensor suite, far superior to anything the Ravok possess, detected the initial attack on the Celestial Dawn. The ship's artificial intelligence, a sophisticated neural network designated Oracle, immediately flagged the engagement as a probable piracy incident. Commander Hayes reviewed the data and made an instant decision. The Valiant would investigate and, if necessary, intervene. The fact that the victims were not human was irrelevant to Hayes. His orders were to maintain stability in the region and protect lawful commerce. The Ravok were neither. The human approach. The Valiant begins its approach at high sublight speed, its stealth systems engaged to avoid premature detection. Human military technology is the product of centuries of innovation driven by necessity. Earth's history of conflict and its relatively recent entry into the galactic community have created a civilization that prioritizes military effectiveness above almost all else. Human warships are smaller than most alien equivalents but pack vastly superior firepower, speed, and defensive capabilities. The Valiant is no exception. Aboard the Valiant, Lieutenant Commander Rachel Porter, the ship's tactical officer, coordinates with Oracle to develop multiple combat scenarios. The Ravok fleet consists of 6 warships, 3 heavy cruisers and 3 escort frigates, all clustered around the crippled Celestial Dawn. Porter calculates firing solutions, identifies priority targets, and prepares electronic warfare protocols. The crew is professional and focused, their training evident in the efficient silence that fills the bridge. Commander Hayes addresses his crew over the ship-wide intercom. His voice is calm but carries an undercurrent of steel. He explains the situation: a civilian vessel under attack, hundreds of lives at risk, and a predatory force that has grown too comfortable operating with impunity. He reminds them that humanity's reputation in the galaxy is built on actions like these, on the willingness to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. The crew responds with quiet determination. They know what is about to happen: the emergence. The Ravok are unaware of the approaching threat until it is far too late. The Valiant drops out of stealth at a range of 50,000 kilometers, its sudden appearance on Ravok sensors causing immediate confusion. The Ravok commanders initially assume it is a merchant vessel or perhaps a lost explorer. The ship's profile is unfamiliar to them, though some of their database entries flag it as possibly human in origin. The Ravok have encountered human traders before but have never faced a human warship in combat. Their intelligence on human military capabilities is limited and largely based on second-hand accounts. Krath, the Ravok commander, orders his fleet to take defensive positions around the Celestial Dawn. He transmits a warning to the approaching ship, declaring the transport a lawful prize under Ravok salvage customs and threatening violence if the stranger interferes. The Valiant does not respond with words. Instead, Commander Hayes gives a simple order: fire. The Valiant's opening salvo is devastating. Railgun rounds, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, tear through the shields and armor of the nearest Ravok frigate before its crew can even react. The frigate's reactor goes critical, and the ship disintegrates in a brilliant flash of light. Simultaneously, the Valiant launches a spread of guided missiles that employ adaptive AI targeting, allowing them to evade countermeasures and strike with pinpoint accuracy. A second Ravok frigate is crippled, its engines destroyed and its hull venting atmosphere. The battle unfolds. The Ravok fleet reacts with a mixture of shock and fury. Krath orders his remaining ships to engage the human destroyer, confident that numerical superiority will prevail. The three Ravok heavy cruisers are formidable vessels, each mounting plasma cannons and torpedo launchers capable of destroying most alien warships. They open fire in a coordinated barrage, filling the void with energy beams and explosive warheads. The Valiant, however, is a moving target, its maneuvering thrusters and main drives allowing it to execute evasive patterns that seem impossible for a ship of its size. Lieutenant Commander Porter oversees the defensive systems. The Valiant's point defense grid, a network of automated laser turrets and kinetic interceptors, engages incoming threats with inhuman precision. Torpedoes are destroyed kilometers away from the hull, and plasma beams are deflected by the ship's adaptive shielding, which analyzes incoming fire and adjusts its energy distribution in real time. The Ravok weapons, designed to overwhelm static defenses, are ineffective against the human destroyer's mobility and technology. The Valiant presses the attack. Hayes orders a close-range engagement, a tactic that would be suicidal for most ships but plays to humanity's strengths. The destroyer accelerates directly toward the Ravok formation, its railguns firing in a continuous stream. One of the heavy cruisers attempts to ram the Valiant, but the human ship rolls beneath the attack and delivers a crippling broadside at point-blank range. The cruiser's command deck is obliterated, and the vessel tumbles out of formation, dead in space. Witness to the impossible. Aboard the Celestial Dawn, the captives are glued to the viewports and monitoring screens in their holding areas, watching the battle unfold. What they witness defies their understanding of naval warfare. The human ship moves with a grace and speed that seems to defy physics, weaving through the Ravok formation like a predator among prey. Each salvo from the Valiant finds its mark, while the Ravok return fire strikes only empty space or is intercepted before it can do damage. Lyra, the young engineer, finds herself analyzing the human ship's maneuvers with a mixture of awe and disbelief. The Valiant is employing tactics she has never seen before, combining extreme aggression with calculated precision. Torin, the Varelian security officer, remarks that the human crew must be either insane or supremely confident. Myra, the human merchant, smiles faintly and says that both are probably true. She explains that humanity learned to fight in the harshest school imaginable, against itself. Centuries of warfare on Earth produced a species that views combat as both an art and a science. Captain Vexer, watching from a different viewport, feels a surge of hope for the first time since the attack began. He has served in space for decades and has witnessed many battles, but nothing has prepared him for this. The human ship is not simply winning, it is dominating. The Ravok, so terrifying only hours ago, now seem almost pitiful in comparison. Vexer realizes that if the Valiant prevails, it will rewrite the balance of power in the Viridian expanse. The Ravok have operated with impunity for too long, and the arrival of humanity may finally bring accountability to this lawless region. The Ravok's last stand. Krath, realizing that his fleet is being systematically destroyed, makes a desperate decision. He orders the remaining Ravok ships to use the Celestial Dawn as a shield, positioning the crippled transport between themselves and the human destroyer. Krath transmits a message to the Valiant, threatening to execute the captives if the human ship does not withdraw. It is a gambit born of desperation, and Krath believes that even humans, for all their ferocity, will hesitate to endanger innocent lives. Commander Hayes receives the transmission and considers his options. Oracle presents him with multiple tactical solutions, each with calculated probabilities of success and acceptable losses. Hayes rejects them all. He will not gamble with the lives of the captives, and he will not allow the Ravok to escape justice. Instead, he orders a new strategy, one that will require absolute precision and trust in his crew. The Valiant ceases fire and maneuvers to a position directly above the celestial dawn. From this vantage point, the human ship has a clear line of sight to the two remaining Ravok heavy cruisers without risking collateral damage to the transport. Hayes orders Lieutenant Commander Porter to prepare a synchronized strike using the Valiant's advanced targeting systems. The plan is audacious. The destroyer will fire a salvo of railgun rounds that will pass within meters of the Celestial Dawn's hull, threading the needle to strike the Ravok ships beyond. Precision and execution. The crew of the Valiant works in perfect synchronization. Oracle calculates trajectories down to the millimeter, accounting for the movement of all three ships, gravitational influences, and even the minor variations in the Ravok vessel's positions. Porter oversees the firing sequence, her hands steady on the controls. When Hayes gives the order, the Valiant fires. The railgun rounds streak through space, passing so close to the celestial dawn that some of the captives can see the faint distortion they create in the vacuum. The rounds strike the two Ravok cruisers with surgical precision, punching through their shields and detonating their reactors. The explosions light up the void, and the Ravok threat is ended. The only remaining enemy vessel is a single frigate, badly damaged and attempting to flee. Hayes orders it disabled but not destroyed, intending to capture it for intelligence purposes. Aboard the Celestial Dawn, the captives erupt in a cacophony of emotions. Some weep with relief, others cheer, and a few simply collapse from the psychological strain of the ordeal. Captain Vexer closes his eyes and offers a silent prayer of gratitude to whatever force guided the human ship to them. Lyra finds herself laughing, a sound that surprises her given the horrors of the past hours. Torin shakes his head in disbelief, muttering that he will never again underestimate humanity. The rescue. The Valiant maneuvers alongside the Celestial Dawn and establishes a docking connection. Commander Hayes leads a boarding party personally, accompanied by medical personnel and engineers. The human crew moves through the damaged transport with practiced efficiency, securing the Ravok prisoners and assessing the condition of the captives. Hayes finds Captain Vexer in the main holding area and extends a hand in greeting. Vexer, overcome with emotion, grasps it firmly and expresses his profound gratitude. The human medical team, led by Dr. Alan Carter, begins treating the injured. Carter is impressed by the resilience of the Calrathi and other species, noting that many of them have endured trauma that would incapacitate most humans. The engineers, meanwhile, work to restore the Celestial Dawn's basic systems, jury-rigging repairs that will allow the transport to limp to the nearest safe port. Lyra encounters one of the human engineers, a young woman named Corporal Lisa Grant. The two strike up a conversation, and Lyra is surprised by how approachable and friendly the human is. Grant explains that the Valiant's mission is not just about combat, it is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Lyra asks why humanity would risk so much for aliens they have never met. Grant pauses and then replies that it is simply the right thing to do. Humanity, having survived its own dark history, understands the value of standing against tyranny and cruelty. Aftermath and reflection. Over the following hours, the Valiant's crew completes the rescue operation. The Celestial Dawn is stabilized, and the captives are provided with food, water, and medical care. Commander Hayes coordinates with nearby Calrathi authorities to arrange a convoy that will escort the transport to safety. The captured Ravok frigate is taken in tow, and its crew is placed in the Valiant's brig, where they will await trial for piracy and attempted murder. As the immediate crisis passes, Captain Vexer requests a private meeting with Commander Hayes. The two officers sit in the Celestial Dawn's damaged observation lounge, surrounded by stars. Vexer speaks of his gratitude and his astonishment at the capabilities of the human warship. He admits that he had heard rumors about humanity's military prowess, but had dismissed them as exaggerations. Hayes smiles and replies that humanity prefers to let its actions speak for themselves. Vexer asks Hayes why the Valiant intervened. The Calrathi captain notes that most species would have avoided confronting the Ravok, especially for a ship full of strangers. Hayes considers the question and then gives an answer that will stay with Vexor for the rest of his life. He explains that humanity has learned, through bitter experience, the cost of indifference. When evil is allowed to flourish unchecked, it spreads like a disease, consuming the innocent and emboldening the wicked. Humanity chooses to act not out of arrogance or a desire for glory, but out of a fundamental belief that civilized beings have a duty to protect one another. The ripple effect. News of the Valiant's actions spreads rapidly through the Viridian expanse and beyond. The rescue of the Celestial Dawn becomes a symbol of humanity's commitment to justice and the protection of the innocent. Other species, long intimidated by the Ravok, begin to reconsider their policies of appeasement. Diplomatic channels between the Kelrathi Confederacy and the Terran Alliance are strengthened, with both sides recognizing the mutual benefits of cooperation. For the Ravok, the battle marks a turning point. The loss of an entire fleet to a single human destroyer sends shockwaves through their command structure. The Ravok leadership realizes that humanity is not a species to be trifled with, and they begin to withdraw from the more heavily patrolled regions of space. While piracy does not end entirely, the Ravok's reign of terror is significantly curtailed. Lyra, inspired by her encounter with the Valiant's crew, decides to dedicate her career to building bridges between species. She becomes an advocate for interspecies cooperation and eventually joins a joint Kelrathi human engineering project. Torin, the Varelian security officer, returns to his homeworld and shares his story, helping to shift public opinion in favor of closer ties with humanity. Myra, the human merchant, continues her trading but now carries with her a deep pride in her species' actions. The Valiant's departure. With the rescue complete and the Kelrathi convoy arrived, Commander Hayes prepares the Valiant to resume its patrol. The crew has performed flawlessly, and Hayes takes a moment to commend them over the intercom. He reminds them that their mission is far from over and that there are countless other beings in the galaxy who may one day need their help. As the Valiant disengages from the Celestial Dawn, Captain Vexor and the passengers gather at the viewports to watch the human destroyer depart. The ship's engines flare to life, and it accelerates smoothly into the void, disappearing into the darkness from which it came. For those aboard the Celestial Dawn, the image of the Valiant emerging from the void will remain etched in their memories forever, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope can arrive when least expected. Vexor stands at the viewport long after the Valiant has vanished from sight. He reflects on the events of the day and the realization that the galaxy is changing. Humanity, once a newcomer to the interstellar stage, is proving itself to be a force for good, a civilization willing to stand against tyranny and protect the weak. Vexor knows that this is only the beginning. Humanity's influence will continue to grow, and the galaxy will be better for it. Themes and conclusion. This story explores several key themes central to the HFY genre. First, it highlights humanity's military competence and technological superiority, showcasing a warship and crew that operate at a level beyond what other species consider possible. Second, it emphasizes humanity's moral character and willingness to intervene on behalf of strangers, driven by principles rather than self-interest. Third, it demonstrates the ripple effects of such actions, showing how a single act of courage and compassion can inspire change on a galactic scale. The narrative also contrasts humanity's approach to conflict with that of other species. While the Ravok embody cruelty and predation, and other aliens practice caution and non-intervention, humanity strikes a balance between strength and compassion. The Valiant's crew does not seek glory or conquest. They simply do what they believe is right, trusting in their training and technology to see them through. The story concludes on a hopeful note, with the rescued passengers beginning to rebuild their lives and the galaxy taking notice of humanity's actions. The Valiant, meanwhile, continues its mission, ever vigilant and ready to answer the call when rescue is needed. The title "No Rescue Was Coming" until a human warship emerged from the void encapsulates the central moment of the story. The transition from despair to hope, facilitated by humanity's willingness to act when others will not. This outline provides a comprehensive framework for an 11,000-word story, with detailed character arcs, plot progression, and thematic depth. The narrative balances intense action sequences with quieter moments of reflection and character development, ensuring that the story resonates on both an emotional and intellectual level. The focus on realistic combat tactics, believable alien cultures, and the long-term consequences of heroism gives the story a grounded quality that will appeal to readers seeking substance alongside spectacle.